And hello again, and this week I can't really do much more on the engine until some more parts arrive, and so instead I'm going to concentrate on these, the carburetors. And so looking at these carbs, they do have quite a few problems, and the first one of course is written on here. It says choke needs fixing. Now I've no idea if the choke has been fixed in the past, or if it's still a problem, who knows. So that's something I've got to look at. Next, the finish. Now, the carbs on a GPz 750 should be black from the factory, and sure enough, these are black. But this finish is definitely not a factory finish. I reckon these have been painted by somebody in the past, because the paint's very thin. It just falls off quite easily, which is why it's so chipped and looking so bad. So I think these carbs are not from a GPz 750 engine. No, I think they're pretty the same carbs, but maybe they're from maybe a different bike, maybe a 750 L3 or L4. They did have the same carbs, but they were plainly finished in aluminium. They weren't black. So that's a problem. I need to take these apart and either get them blasted or cleaned off back to the sort of raw aluminium finish, or get them recoated in some way. Next, and probably a bigger problem, is that if we look at the slides here, we can see three look very similar, and this one here looks a bit different. And if you try and raise them up, you can listen. And this last one, it doesn't sound the same, and nor does it drop back down again. And I think that's because the diaphragm that lives underneath these top covers here, this one I think may be damaged. Now the diaphragms are quite delicate, and these diaphragms are now over 40 years old, so it's no wonder that maybe it's been damaged in some way. It's got hard, it's got brittle, it's cracked. So I suspect the diaphragm underneath here may well be no good anymore, and I'll have to find a replacement, which is bad news because these diaphragms are quite expensive. But again, it needs sorting out. So next then, I've decided to take the carbs apart, and that's where we hit the next problem, because all the screws that hold these carbs together, there are 8 here and 8 on the other side. Oops. Well, they're all pretty well jammed in. I managed to remove about 5 so far. Here they are, 5, but the rest just don't want to move. That might be partly because it's corroded, but also because when these things have been painted, they've also painted over the screws, which isn't ideal. And that's another reason why these carbs are not black from the factory. So I do have a tool that might help me remove these fixed screws. I'm actually been using a vessel screwdriver so far, a GPz ended screwdriver, and I do have an impact driver of the same type by Vessel, a GPz one. So let's get this in the garage and let's see if we can get these screws removed. And so here's that Vessel impact driver, so let's give it a go. I'm not too confident because these screws are in really tight, but we'll give it a go. Right, let's see if that's made any difference. No, it's still tight. If this doesn't work, I'm going to try heat. Get it really hot, let it cool down, get it really hot, let it cool down, and then we'll try again. If that doesn't work, I can always try to cut a slot right across the head and use a flat bladed screwdriver, a bigger one. If that doesn't work, then we'll have to drill it out, which I'm not looking forward to because that's a bit tricky. I'll probably take the whole thing to Jeff's workshop. He can do it on his miller and accurately drill a hole. If you try and drill it by hand, it'll skip off and you'll end up damaging the thread in the carburetor, which you don't want. So yeah, this could be a long job, but needs must. Well, that was a complete failure, and I didn't manage to remove any screws whatsoever. So now we'll move on and try some heat and see if that helps. Often it does, but you never know. Come on. Right, let's have a look. I don't like using heat on carburetors, but needs must, needs must. The idea is you expand the screw, which in turn crushes any rust that's inside the screw threads. Then when it cools down again, it shrinks and hopefully releases the screw which is jammed up by the rust and corrosion inside the thread. You have to be careful though, you don't want to heat up the aluminium too much because it weakens it, softens it, and you can end up stripping the thread rather than removing the screw. So I don't really want to heat up, you know. Oops, there you go, there's some petrol in there. Wow, this hasn't had petrol in it for 20 years, but I guess it's still got a little bit. That was a bit scary, wasn't it? Anyway, we'll just leave this on for, you know, a minute or so, let it get nice and warm. The good news is, unlike an engine, carburetors are quite small, so it's less of a heat sink. You try and do this on an engine, an aluminium engine, it just sucks away all the heat straight away. I need an awful lot of heat to do it, which I haven't got. These little torches aren't man enough to heat up a bolted engine, but yeah. Anyway, we'll just do that for a while, and then I'll do the same with the rest of them, and we'll see if that helps. I suspect not, but you've got to try whatever you can. And after about half an hour, I've got some success. I've got all the screws out on the carb rails, apart from this last one here. Very stubborn, so I'm just giving it a bit more heat, and hopefully that'll do the trick, and we'll get it out. What also has helped is I've managed to support the carbs in a way that doesn't risk breaking the carbs, because I'm hitting it bloody hard. So I've got this softwood here, it's just about the right height, just to support these two chokes, and yeah, it stops it from rocking, and that really did the trick. I should have done that first of all, but I was rushing. So anyway, let's just spend another minute or so hitting this screw up, and hopefully that's enough and it'll come out. Alright, here goes. Oh yes, that went then. Well, that's good. Thank God for that. Right, so that's all screws undone. So now hopefully I can separate the carbs, which will be really helpful. I can't touch this, it's really hot. So in fact the whole carb bodies are really hot. Let's just get him out of there. There you go. We'll get out of there. There we go. Ouch, this is hot. Yeah, so there you go. That's off. And the one here is also off. You can see here, this is no way this is original paint. You know, you can see someone's sprayed it, I think, in place. That's why these bits haven't been painted. So yeah, that's no good. So we'll put them to one side. God, it is up. Okay. And now I've got to let that cool off. I can start to take them all apart, and we'll go from there. And now, as you can see, I've managed to separate all four carbs. Wasn't easy because removing this choke rod was a bit of a pain, but I got there in the end. So let's start off by looking at the worst carb, this one here. So I've already taken off the float bowl, and inside you've got this sort of tarnishing left behind by old petrol, which you can expect. That's not really a problem. But looking at the inside of the carb, we do have quite a big problem. I'm not sure if you can tell in this light, but these floats are absolutely knackered. They're kind of made from solid plastic, I think, and they're all completely cracked. You see there the cracks in these floats. I mean, I guess they still float because they're solid, but yeah, these need to be replaced. So that's a bit of a problem because these are quite expensive to replace, and I suspect all the other carbs will be in the same boat. So yeah, it's not looking good. So next then, we need to take off this cover, and we'll no doubt find out that perhaps the diaphragm inside is equally cracked or has issues. Okay, so there's the fasteners removed. Let's see if this thing will come off. So behind here we have a diaphragm. Okay, that's pretty clean. It's plastic. That's fine. So what can we see? Oh, I can't see any particular problems at the moment. Let me put my glasses on so I can see what's going on. I should have put them on before. Right, that's better. I can see now. Yeah, can't really see any great problems. Let's just look at this. You see here? This is the, let's gently pull it out. They are quite delicate. So let's just see if we can push it up. Alright, so there's a slide. Again, not too bad inside. But what's going on with this? Let's have a look. But it doesn't feel very rubbery, it feels quite stiff. So I suspect after 40 odd years this thing's had its day. So again, more expense, I've got to change this out. And I suspect if I do one, I've got to do them all. There's no point in just changing one, because no doubt, even if these are okay, they won't be okay forever, you know, so probably best just change it. So, more expense. I now need to buy new diaphragms, buy new floats to replace these cracked ones, and know that also I need to buy a new set of float valves, which are behind there, and float seats, because again, these wear. Now, if you get wear in the float valves, they can either stick open or stick closed or stick halfway, and that can lead either to no petrol in the carb or too much petrol, and then it floods out all over your floor, all over your engine, which is not ideal. So yeah, this is not looking too good at the moment. Oh, and I also of course need to buy a whole new set of gaskets. More expense. But that was kind of expected. Well, I'm surprised these floats are so badly cracked. Yeah, look at that. In fact, compared to the earlier carbs that were fitted to the Z650, these are different, because they were real floats, you know, they were hollow. But these aren't. These are just sort of solid pieces of plastic or whatever. But I mean, I'll take a photograph of this so you can hopefully see how bad they are. But yeah, they are really badly cracked. So yeah, I just have to keep on going, and no doubt I'll have to change these parts in all 4 carbs. And as I think about it, once I've paid for all those parts, and also paid no doubt to get these bodies blasted or be blasted or something, or vapor blasted, and then perhaps even coated, it's going to be quite an expensive process to refurbish these carbs. So I'm sort of sitting here thinking, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Perhaps just go and buy some more carbs. Yeah, so I actually do have a spare set of carbs. I say spare, they're destined for a different project. I do have a set of Mikuni HSR 34s, which will go straight on this engine. But to replace them is £1,025, because I did check last night. And yeah, I don't really want to spend that kind of money on this particular project. So for now then, we've got to persevere. I'll strip down these carbs, and we'll see how we get on. And now with all 4 carbs completely stripped down, they've all spent at least an hour in my ultrasonic cleaner. And actually that worked quite well. It got rid of a lot of muck, but it also lifted off a lot of the flaky paint that had been painted on these carbs some time ago, because it wasn't very well done. And as you can see, it's looking pretty good. And yeah, I think this was the side that hadn't been painted very much, and this was the side that had paint on. So I've been scrubbing it off and spending a lot of time getting all the nooks and crannies. But then I gave up because it was taking too long. So I went off and I bought myself this stuff, a paint of this paint stripper made by Barrettine. And I bought this because it was the best one I could find in various reviews that I've seen online. Now, paint stripper used to be really, really good back in the day, but now due to safety laws and so on, it's nowhere near as potent as it used to be. So this one apparently is the best of a bad lot. So that's what I bought, and that's what I'm using now, just to strip off the last difficult bits of paint on these carburetors. So if I bring you on here, let's just change him out. You can see here that paint is now peeling off quite well. Leave it for a bit longer, and hopefully that'll all fall off without too much difficulty. But it is a bit tricky because it's all full of little nooks and crannies, and it's difficult to get off, as you can see here. But the one good thing is the paint has protected the surface underneath, so it's not too corroded or anything like that. So you can see here, it's just going to take quite a while just to get every little bit of paint off these bodies. Yeah, but it's working quite well actually. I've left it on for about half an hour, and it seems to be working quite well. So yeah, that's what's going on at the moment. Really tedious, but hopefully when I finish it'll look quite presentable, and yeah, back to silver how it should be on these original carbs. And I'm going to leave it silver. I'm not going to go through the expense of having them coated in Cerakote or whatever, because it's just an extra expense that I don't need right now. So anyway, with the carbs in pieces, I did find something out about the internals that I didn't expect. So those internals are all laid out on a table inside the house. So let's go inside and see what I found. And now here we have all the internals of all 4 carburetors. And as you can see straight away, there's something missing on this first carburetor here. It's missing a spring. And this is the carb that had the problem with the slide not going back down the bore as it should do. Now I thought it was going to be because the diaphragm was damaged in some way, but it turns out I was wrong, and the problem is it's missing its spring. God knows why. God knows why. Luckily, I've been able to find a U-spring off eBay, so that's now on its way, and hopefully, fingers crossed, when that spring's fitted, this carb will work as it should. Obviously, I also have new parts arriving soon for the damaged floats. I've also got new float valves and float seats and so on, but they're in the post, and they should be here in a few days' time. Oh, and one more thing before I go. Last Saturday, I went to see a viewer of mine. Not because he's a viewer, but for a different reason. Because he's now the new owner of an old bike of mine, my red Kawasaki Z650B that I restored with a little bit of modifications about 3 years ago now, and he's just bought it. Now, the reason why I went to see him, apart from just having a good chat, was because he wants to take that bike a step further. He wants to do some more mods to it, make it a bit more modern, a bit more upgraded. And one of the upgrades he's made is to fit a set of brand new carbs, a brand new set of Mikuni HSR 34 carbs, which is kind of weird because that's just the sort of carbs that I like to use. And having done that, of course, then his original carbs are now of no use to him. So I asked him, well, do you want to sell them back to me? He said, yeah, sure. So last Saturday, I went along and I bought back those original carbs. And actually they're down here, quite heavy, in the original Mikuni racing carb box. And I bought them back because they were in good condition, they were cleaned, and they've got all new valve seats and valve floats in them, because I did change them all. And yeah, all new leads and so on. So these are the original carbs fitted to a Z650 back in sort of 1977. As you can see, they're quite different from the CV carbs fitted later on. So yeah, just thought I'd mention that. So a big hello to Christian. Hello, Christian. And hopefully we'll see you later on this year, because we did say we wanted to meet up at some point at a local bike event. So yeah, that would be quite good to see his bike and him again. And hopefully I'll be on my blue 650/750 Project bike. Fingers crossed, that's if I can sort out all these problems it's got, get the engine finished, get it in the bike and get everything else done. But although it may not seem so, there is still a huge amount of work to do on that bike. The engine is finishing, it's actually just down there and waiting for some new parts to arrive. The carbs need rebuilding and refinishing. I've then got to fit and probably modify an exhaust system, because the standard system won't fit, because I've got a wider back end on that bike now. I've also got to design and make up a complete wiring loom, because the wiring's all different. I've got different instrumentation and so on. I've not yet got any kind of electronic control box for it, which I want to use. So I've got to decide which one to go for. I've got to fit, or decide and buy, an appropriate set of handlebar switchgear. Again, I'll probably go for something a bit more modern. Not sure yet, but we'll come to that later on. Yeah, so there's still a huge amount of work to do, even though it might not seem that way. But hopefully, fingers crossed, I can get it finished by the summer, at least by the start of this summer. So that's it for now then. As you can see, working on carbs can be a bit of a pain. Things don't always go how you want them to, and just getting screws out the damn things can take hours on end. But we got there in the end, as you can see, with a bit of heat and an impact driver. So that's it for now. I was hoping to get a lot more done on this video, maybe strip down all the carbs and start fitting new parts and so on and getting them blasted, but no, I don't have time for that this week, but hopefully next week I'll make a lot more progress. So that's it for now, and so thanks for watching, and cheers.